Oh. Hey everybody, Dustin DePirac here. Calling this Jeremy Price. Had a little hiccup with the recording there, but anyway, wanted to come talk to you today. It's been a while since we've done a scoop talk, but today was the end of the Adidas Invitational. Pretty much the biggest and really the last big recruiting thing that we actually physically cover during the year. Because after this, they go out to places like Vegas and Orlando and stuff like that. And frankly, we spent enough of the budget on the College World Series and tournament this year that Salzburg wouldn't be having that. Not so much. But
I tried.
Hey, what's that? Did you?
I tried, yeah.
No, you did.
Yeah, I said
Vegas, just cause.
I just threw that out there just to see.
Just to see. It was worth a shot. Anyway.
No.
No, it's not a good idea. But anyway, point being, we saw enough people that it's probably a good idea to just give kind of an update of where really everything stands. On some level, this was probably, I guess, strictly for Indiana fans, the least compelling Adidas Invitational we've seen in the sense of having people there that were, likely IU players or were top on lists. We've seen, certainly seen more. This is the first time since I've been covering the team that there was not one IU commit there, because a few years ago there was Austin Etherington, and then they were certainly going after Cody Zeller at that point. The year after that was really the Indiana elite year where they had Farrell and Perea and Hollowell and everybody, and then even last year they still had Devin Davis and Colin Hartman sticking around, and I think even the Spies team was even there with actually no, they were at Peach Jam last year too. But point being, IU not only has one commitment for future classes, James Blackman. He was playing down at Peach Jam with Spies, but it was still interesting. First, it was a good tournament. I don't mean to say that it wasn't a compelling tournament at all. It's really well put together. It was just less Indiana oriented than it has been in the past. But really, I think the guy that really everybody was coming to see among Indiana fans was Good Luck Okanobo. I mean, he's probably the biggest big man target they've got in the class of 2014. Certainly the highest rated player that Indiana's after that was at this event. Just what did you think of him? What was kind of your impressions from seeing him for a couple of days?
I really liked what I saw with Good Luck. I mean, he's definitely some very clear lines in what he is and what he isn't, at least at this point. But he's certainly got a lot of potential, a lot of upside, and you can kind of tell that he definitely fits kind of the classic mold of your power forward type. I mean, he's the kind of guy you want there, a guy that can rebound, a guy that can block shots, tough defender, and the offensive game, I think there's some things there that I think can be worked with. I mean, it's very raw at this point, but I think there's definitely some potential there for him to work with that. But I guess the thing, and we talked about this a little bit the other day, is the tendency is to kind of compare him to Hunter Perea, but he's a little different. Maybe not quite as freakishly athletic as Perea is, but a little bit more polished in terms of understanding the game and where to be and maybe footwork and some things like that.
Yeah, I think polish is even putting it a bit strong, but I think the word I got from the word Zach Ostrom and I from Zach from Inside Indiana, who we hang out with a little bit too much probably. Sorry, Zach. Anyway, more or less, what he said is it's instinct is really the difference. It's not so much, that he's so polished that it's all put together, but it just seems like he has more of a feel maybe for just where he's supposed to be, just kind of a natural understanding of, okay, this is where I rotate to, this is the spot I'm supposed to be in, just very basic feel for the game stuff. It's not tremendous. It's not like he's got this incredibly, perfect basketball IQ, but he's got a basic understanding that he just doesn't seem like there's as much that needs to be taught. But I mean, he has, the offensive game is still pretty raw, but it has apparently come a long way. Apparently a year ago he really had no offensive game whatsoever. I mean, you can see he can put the ball on the floor a little bit. He can hit a jumper. It's not necessarily something that it's, constant. Free throws are a problem. Yeah. Free throws are a really significant problem. That's something he's going to have to work with. But he can finish at the rim. Certainly gets up. He scored on a lot of alley-oops. But a lot of raw athleticism. But it's really good. I think defensively, I guess the thing when we talk about instinct is the timing part of it, of understanding. Okay, when this guy goes to the rim, when do you go up? How do you not only block but alter a shot? Even if he gets it around you, how do you make sure that he's taking a bad shot, that he's off balance? Those things he seems to understand intrinsically, and I think that's something that's maybe the difference. Again, like you said, he's not maybe as freakishly athletic, doesn't have quite the length that Perea has, but it's close. Doesn't have quite the athleticism, the springiness that Perea has, but better than just about everybody else. So definitely guy. It seems to me like they were at all of Okanobo's games. Indiana, either Tom Crean or an assistant was at every game that we saw. It seems like he's this clear big man focus, I think, for 2014.
Yeah, definitely. And the shot blocking part is something I like. And what I like is that he's not just foolishly going after shots that he has no chance of blocking. I mean, for the most part, he's going after shots that he knows he can get to and has good instincts and timing with that.
Yeah. He can block his own man. He can block off the weak side, rotate, stuff like that. He's pretty good at that. Who else stood out to you? Who were the other guys that you made a point to go see that really stood out to you this weekend?
Well, I think the two main guys that I wanted to see while they were in town this weekend was Deron Davis and Carlton Bragg. Two more big guys.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of curious, what do they have? Kind of where's Indiana go from here with their big men next? Kind of what's the next step? They've got Von Lay in this year. It's going to be more guys kind of in that mold. What do those guys look like? And both those guys are a little different players, and I think they're a class apart. One's 15, one's 16 as well.
Davis is 16, Bragg is 15.
Davis is not as explosive of a player as like an Okanobo or somebody like that, but very strong. Has a nice touch, and you kind of sense that he's still growing, which at his age,
that's kind of the big thing.
A lot of sense.
Yeah.
Bragg is kind of a little more developed, a little more all-around skill. Showed a good handle. One of the games I watched, he did step out and hit a three.
He hit a couple today.
Yeah, he looks like he's fairly comfortable with that jump shot. The trick for guys like him is not to completely fall in love with that shot and work on the post game as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with Bragg, Davis, you look at these two guys, and I think Davis looks like an eventual 5, and Bragg is clearly a 4. I think is kind of the best way to put that. That I don't see Bragg being a real, back to the basket guy. Where Davis, I think that's where he's going to end up. Bragg seems like he's going to be certainly going to face up a lot more, and what's going to stand out about him is just what he can do in transition. I mean, he gets above the rim and just can pretty much throw his arm in there. It's pretty crazy, and also shoot, and it's just another one of those high energy guys. I mean, he was on the bench and he was the loudest person in the gym. Like, basically, anytime his teammates scored, even if nobody else is even reacting, and it's an AAU game and it's sort of kind of meaningless, like, he is jumping up and down and making noise and just bellowing because he's just that jacked up. I mean, the kid's just has that much irrepressible energy that he more or less can't sit down.
Yeah, he actually got a technical one game I was
I'm not
watching.
Surprised about that. That sounds about right.
Yeah, he had a follow dunk that he let out the primal scream afterwards, and apparently that rubbed the referee.
That was a bit much. Yeah, that was a bit much. I saw a little bit from that this weekend. He's not really good at holding it in so much.
No,
that's not really Carlton's thing. But I mean, again, he has a nice game. Yeah, I mean, hit a couple threes, has just a good feel for the ball. I mean, out of all those those three guys, of Davis, Bragg, and Okanobo, I mean, they're not all the same player, but they're all kind of going after the same kind of thing, a 4-5 type, big man with some athleticism. Bragg is the most polished out of the group right now in terms of having an inside-outside game, and in terms of having skill in the post and on the perimeter. Bragg, I think, is the furthest along. Again, Okanobo is a better shot blocker, has more of those sort of inside skills, and Davis, I think, projects as more of a true 5 eventually, when he's grown into his body and everything like that. But Bragg is the guy, I think, out of that group that's the most kind of polished. Another guy we watched, Steven Zimmerman. That's another big guy we watched. He came into this number 1 in the class by Scout, number 2 in the class by Rivals. You could see the potential there. You could see the ability for development. But number 2 in the class, I don't know if I'm seeing that yet.
Yeah, I didn't really see that either.
But Indiana jumped in on him. He's their offer number 21. He's basically got everybody else on the board. Kentucky, Arizona is involved, Louisville's involved, Kansas is involved. It's going to be more Ohio State. I mean, there's a ton of them on that list. So that's going to be interesting to see how his game develops. And I mean, they did say, hey, he's really, really skinny now, like painfully cross-country runner skinny. And he's going to have to put some weight on. But he at least understands that, and that takes a while. Usually until you're done sort of growing up, then you finally start growing out. That's certainly what happened with Cody Zeller. Once he finally got to be the height he was going to be, he finally got to settle down, get in the weight room, eat a lot, and then put the weight on. Certainly, if you remember Cody as a junior, he had that real thin thing to him too. So I mean, that's somebody he's been compared to. See how that turns out.
Yeah, I think develops is the key word with Zimmerman. I mean, what you see when you watch him play is that there is a ton of potential in his game. I mean,
he's got a lot of energy, runs well, runs the floor really well. Jumper looks good. It didn't go down yesterday, especially. It was like 1 for 9 and airballed a bunch. But has a feel for it, feels comfortable with it. Seems like he's, got some polish and stuff like that, but just didn't. is not in the case where he can sort of impose will at this point.
No, I think a little bit of that strength and maybe a little bit of that is attitude a little bit, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Just kind of that desire to finish, that you can't stop me kind of aspect of his game. But
you
again,
get that when you get the size, I guess. Yeah. When you're backing into a guy, even if you got 3 or 4 inches on him, but he's got like 20, 30 pounds on you, you're not going to move him, and that I think kind of takes some confidence away. You don't feel like you can do what you want to do because you can't back a guy down.
And the times I saw him, I mean, his teammates weren't exactly like feeding him the ball 20 times a game.
No. There were some guys on that team that wanted some shots.
Yeah.
So at least one of them there. Who was the kid? The Jamal Light. I can't remember one way or another. He's a 2013 kid, so he's running out of time, and I kind of understand it from his standpoint. I wouldn't, if I were him, I wouldn't pass either. It's July, man. You need to get into school.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. But anyway, we'd like to talk a whole bunch more, but we're like at the limit here. So we'll have more recruiting stuff, and football's in like 10 days. Big Ten Media Day. So stick with us as always. We'll have more. Thank you.